I am really unsure about my relationship with my boyfriend. How do I continue? Like I said, I'm having doubts about my relationship. We have been together for 2 years now, and I do realize we are very young, and I think that's my problem. A little context. I have a lot of baggage. I come with my fair share of mental issues and am also chronically ill. It's a lot to bear, but I constantly work on myself and have been in and out of therapy for years to better myself. When I met my boyfriend, I was a lot younger, and I was at the very start of my healing journey. I was anxious, awkward, and I had trouble trusting people. I had just started a new school as well. Coming from a school where I was constantly bullied, I finally got my diploma and was ready for a new start, so I joined one of the art schools in my country, and that's where I met my boyfriend. Things happened fast. After 3 weeks of knowing each other and hanging out, he confessed that he liked me, and because I was so unexperienced and young, I agreed to be his girlfriend. After he asked me for the 3rd time, things were a little weird in the beginning. I all of a sudden cared about a guy in my life. I had been alone for so long, and now I had to worry about losing this new person in my life. It was so stressful. He texted ex-girlfriends, he lied about weird things, he moved way too fast while I was still figuring out who I was and what I wanted. My first breakdown was 3 months into our relationship. I told him I didn't like a bunch of things he was doing, and he apologized and stopped. And this is basically how our relationship has been for 2 years now. I ignore things that bother me, and every 2/3 months I break down crying, begging him to stop and grow up. I've learned a lot about myself, and I try to always look on the bright side. There's many things I've done in the past 2 years that have made me so proud of myself. I know what I want for my future and I know what matters to me, but I hate that my boyfriend is just there. He is a gamer, of course, nothing wrong with that, although it's the only hobby he has. On weekends he stays inside his room. Even when I visit, he never takes me out while I try to always plan fun things for when he visits me on the weekends. He has no goals and doesn't know what he wants to do after school. He has trouble taking care of himself, showering, skincare, cleaning his room and eating healthy. He doesn't exercise. He has no sense of empathy and he's very immature. Although this sounds very negative, I have trouble with deciding what to do. He is my first real boyfriend and he's very sweet and caring. He would never call me names and he tries his best. See, I want to say that, but I really don't know. When I have to beg someone to shower before seeing me, I'm not sure it counts as to trying his best. Last week something happened that really bothers me. We and his friend were at the train station and this group of drunk girls came up to me calling me really horrible names, and one of them wanted to fight me, and my boyfriend just stood there. I had to tell those girls, while shaking, to please leave me alone and that I had pepper spray with me. I did not, so they would back off. They didn't, so I walked away and my boyfriend and his friend followed me, and when we were safe, they spent the whole night talking about how they would have protected me. I don't care about his friend, but it really sucked that he just stood there. This has happened before with a violent man in a park, same situation. I had to tell the man to leave me alone and my boyfriend just stood there. Another thing that really bothers me is that he doesn't see me. I go out of my way to learn about things he likes, even though it's nerdy and sometimes strange. I try cause I know he would like that, but has he once picked up a book I love? No. Does he listen to my favorite songs? No. There's letters on my walls from my internet best friends that contain more about what kind of person I am than he has ever told me. He told my parents he knows me better than I do myself, yet he can't tell you what my favorite movie is about. He can't tell you the meaning of my favorite song. He can't even tell you my new interests, although that's all I talk about all the time. It just doesn't matter to him? I have taken a week off of school to think about all of this, and if he is someone I could see myself with in the future, he has put me under a lot of stress by disappointing me about all these small things that I've completely lost my self-worth. I've stopped doing the things that I love to do, so I'm going to spend this whole week loving myself and doing things that make me happy. I just really need some advice on how to continue. Are there things I can tell my boyfriend to make him realize he needs to grow up? Or do I need to leave him? Second story, my 28F, my sister, 30F, will use our other sister, 22F, as surrogate and I don't know what to do. Hello, I don't use Reddit and made this account to post about an issue with the very same sisters a couple of years ago and now I'm back. I'm stuck in a tough situation between my two sisters, Shirley, 30F, and Mary, 22F. Shirley's always been the bossy big sister, and Mary's the sweet, passive one who'll do anything to keep the peace. This dynamic has been our norm for as long as I can remember. Shirley and her husband have tried to have children for 2 years now, but the 3 pregnancies she had during this time were terminated before the 11th week. They've been devastated, which I genuinely feel for. The problem is that Shirley latched onto the idea of Mary carrying the baby for her. Mary's set to graduate from college in 4 months, and the plan is to start the process immediately after. Mary says she's okay with it, but she always just looks sad about the things she'll miss, like partying or her favorite foods, since Shirley will have her move in to make sure she's following a specific pregnancy diet, or she seems anxious about the process itself. When we've talked about it, she said things like, "Shirley's done a lot for me, this is the least I can do for her," or "She's really counting on me, I don't want to let her down." She keeps brushing off her own doubts, and it's so obvious to me that she's only agreeing because Shirley's guilt-tripping her. Mary seems to also be mourning her body, doing a lot of body checks in the mirror, and once she laughed anxiously, joking about how it's all gonna go. I think partly because it will change a lot, but also because Shirley keeps making comments about how Mary won't be cute and skinny anymore. These comments make me furious, but every time I push back, Shirley dismisses me, saying she's just telling the truth and I don't understand sacrifice for family. I'm worried because Mary has always looked up to Shirley, to the point of idolization. I think she's afraid of saying no because she doesn't want to disappoint her and because of the absolute hell she'd make, but I can see how uncomfortable she is when this whole surrogacy thing comes up. She also keeps looking up pregnancy complications and birth videos, and I can see she's so anxious about the whole thing. I don't want to overstep or make things worse, but I also can't just sit back and watch Mary sacrifice her body and mental health for something she doesn't want. I've tried talking to her about whether this is what she truly wants, but she just deflects and says Shirley has been through a lot and deserves this. How do I get more involved? How do I approach Mary without making her feel more pressured? How do I help her see that it's okay to say no if she doesn't want this? Would going to Shirley help with anything? Edit for those asking about official clinics. They didn't go to a clinic with Mary specifically yet, but I'm afraid that won't be enough to get her an easy way out. They had to have some treatments/exams where, from what I understood, only about 20% of Shirley's eggs were good for use. They've had talks about how if the pregnancy has risks because of her eggs, she's open to having a kid not of her own, as she puts it. That's one of the reasons why she wants Mary, because if she needs the eggs, it's the closest DNA she has to her own, so when they find out a clinic won't do it, I think they'll just spend a few months getting used to the idea of doing it DIY and then do it. Third story, I 35F am not meeting my brother's 31M expectation as an aunt. I, 35F, have a younger brother, 31M, my brother has a son while I am happily child-free. I do, however, make an effort to connect to my nephew, 3M. Which is hard for me because I admittedly often find myself being awkward and not knowing what to do or what to say when being around small children. This has been communicated repeatedly. My brother has repeatedly criticized me for not being good enough. Recently he has started to give me regular performance reviews, all of which I have failed, because he says I am doing it wrong. I asked for advice on how to do better. He says he can't tell me how to properly love a toddler, but the way I am doing it is apparently degrading, disrespectful, and borderline abuse. He did provide examples, such as not having sat in the correct spot while playing and not dropping my fork the second my nephew wanted my attention during Christmas dinner. I sincerely apologized for obviously having screwed up so badly, but also said I was really trying. He said if that is the best I can do, that's pathetic, and he was ashamed of me. I am seriously at a loss of what to do. He has stated that if I don't start meeting his, still, to me, unclear, expectations, he will go no contact, in effect putting me on probation. My nephew, by the way, seems unfazed and always happy to see me. He keeps coming up to me with books to read and toys to admire, which I do to the best of my abilities. I find that hard to reconcile with the claim that I am such an incredible failure as an aunt. Can somebody please give me some advice on how to proceed? Am I the problem here? Edit. The opinions and advice here seem to be pretty unanimous, and I thank all of you very, very much. This has been an extremely reassuring experience. I have decided to go no contact for the foreseeable future. My parents and sister are aware and fully support me in this. I cannot allow myself to be bullied like this. Comments. The problem here is your weird brother. He's cruel and borderline abusive, and there's nothing you can do to change him. If your nephew is happy to see you, and brings books and toys to interact with you, then you're doing fine as an auntie. In your position, I'd minimize contact with my brother, while doing my best to maintain a connection with my nephew. What do your SIL and parents think?